It seems like there's a new headline every day about prison reform, shifting the focus from retribution to reintegration. Among the moves, ban the box, with the president telling federal employers to stop making job applicants disclose their criminal history. And then there were the record 6,000 federal prison inmates who felt freedom this week, deemed nonviolent drug offenders eligible for early release. 492 of those inmates were women. Thousands more are now eligible to apply. People don't spend a lot of time talking about what prison means for a woman, but joining me now are three who have been there and are looking to change all that. Beatrice Codiani served time at the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, Connecticut, alongside Piper Kerman, the woman behind the hit Netflix series Orange is the New Black. She was the inspiration behind Esposito and Kerman's book, which became a series. She's now managing editor of Reentry Central. It's a national group dedicated to criminal justice reform. Good to meet you. Carol Soto served time in Danbury as well and was the inspiration for Kerman's character Yoga Jones. Good to see you. And Andrea James, a local, an author and lawyer who served time in Danbury several years after the others. She founded the organization Families for Justice as Healing. Good to meet and see all three of you. Let me start with you, Andrea. Was the release of the 6,000 prisoners over the last couple of days from the federal prisons, was that an important step in the direction you think we need to be going?
I mean, absolutely. We had for decades incarcerated people, over-incarcerated people, over-criminalized people for things that people should, for the most part, not be incarcerated
Nonviolent drug offenses.
Nonviolent drug offenses. I mean, most of the people that are there are also people that were struggling with the illness of addiction. It's not a criminal issue, it's a public health issue.
Reentry Central is your deal. Are we ready, we meaning society, ready to have 6,000 and then tens of thousands more re-enter?
Yes, I think, well, we better get ready because the people have been locked up too long, and they're going to need support when they get out.
Do we have it, though? Do we have the beds? Do we have the support, Beatrice, that I think you probably believe we need?
I think they wouldn't have let everybody out at the same time if they didn't have something in place. Now, whether it's enough, we'll find out. But there's a lot of organizations that are getting mega millions of bucks, you know, all of them together to help people re-enter society, and I think they better spend it wisely.
Carol, how different are the problems a woman faces in prison from a man, which most of us think we're familiar with, even if we haven't been there? Are they different?
Well, I have to say that the most overwhelming reality in prison is children being taken away from their mothers. I mean, I was lucky enough not to have any children, but it tore my heart out just even watching in the visiting room with children not understanding why their mothers were taken away from them, and, you know.
I want to talk about that in a second, but just stay on the topic. Other than the motherhood thing, and I don't mean to minimize it in the slightest, are there other important differences that we're not thinking about?
Well, certainly there's healthcare disparities. There's all kinds of things that prisons were created with men in mind. And so when they started increasing, now we're up to over 600% increase in incarceration of women overall in the country. Yeah. We're putting women into places that were designed for men. There are all kinds of health issues that women have that men do not have. They're just something as basic as appropriate feminine hygiene, which is not available in many women's prisons across this country.
How about sexual assault?
Sexual assault is outrageously rampant in prison. Many of the COs are men. It is something that is not appropriately addressed, but anytime you have somebody that's working in an environment such as a prison, you have people who are COs who are suffering themselves with outrageous numbers of alcoholism, illness to substances, all kinds of things that are causing them to have behavior that is inappropriate, and you put them in a setting with women who are incarcerated where they are powerless to the men, it creates a problem.
Are the re-entry problems different for women than they are for men?
Yes, I think so. Jobs, for instance, they're not trained in prison. So in Unicor, for example, in the men's prison, they have like carpentry and all kinds of plumbing things. And in the women prisons, they're more of a service organization, so they don't have the skills that pay high salaries when they get out.
Can I return to your point? I looked up today, Carl, you probably know this, there are roughly 150,000 kids in America who don't have a mother present because she is in a facility. Let me run a radical notion by you. If the majority of women in prison are there for nonviolent drug offenses, which they are, I think it's close to 60%, should those women be in prison at all? I mean, should there not be an alternative for them?
They should not be in prison.
What should happen to them?
Well, I mean, you're taking a public health problem and turning it into incarceration, of mass incarceration, which causes costs the state, costs the taxpayers, costs everybody.
So you don't think whether it's a man or a woman for a non-violent offense, but isn't the case stronger for a mother, for a woman not to be?
Certainly, because what it does is it creates generational poverty, it creates generational incarceration, it creates generational undereducation, and these are things that you're not just incarcerating and harming that woman, you're also creating a great deal of trauma in the lives of those children, and that's almost can be very difficult to reverse.
Is Orange is the New Black, has that helped? I mean, my attitude is there are a ton of social issues in this country. Gay marriage, for example, and I think one of the reasons the numbers have gone up dramatically so quickly is because there's so many gays on television, that on shows people watch. Is Orange is the New Black at least help create an environment where people like you can talk about the things you care about and have people listen?
Personally, I think Piper Kerman's book was right on target and is opened a lot of doors for women. But the series, I think, sometimes I believe it harms women.
Why?
Because
Why does it harm women?
It gives a false perception.
What's the false perception?
That everything is about sex in prison. It doesn't show the real deep issues. And I think people watching it might not be really supportive, and legislators might think that it's, well, look, this is what happens in prison. It's a joke.
When you three got out, just going down the line quickly, when you said to somebody who didn't know, they had a conversation with you, a business conversation, a personal conversation, when you got to the point when you just said, I just got out of the federal penitentiary a year ago, 3 years ago, whatever, how was that received?
Well, you know, I was looking at this through a different lens. I had worked within the criminal justice system, including as a criminal defense lawyer for many, many years, and I still did not know, after all those years, how broken the system was until I actually sat on a prison bunk for 2 years and had that experience. So to really help people to understand, we started Families for Justice is Healing to use our voice to help people understand what prison is really like. And yeah, people don't know. And there are many politicians, there are many bureaucrats, there are many professionals who are shaping the current legislation and policy who have no idea.
But do they recoil? I mean, do you have you know what I mean?
You know, I didn't even speak about it for the longest time.
Till today is the first public forum you did?
Well, today is the first public speaking, but I've talked with my family about it, and I've talked with some of my closest friends. But for the first 2 years, I was so severely depressed that I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to see people. I felt like my truth, my personality, my whole being, something had been so robbed from me that I couldn't speak about it, or I just couldn't deal.
We only have 1 minute left. I want to start and go this way. You're the czarina of prison reform. You can change one thing unilaterally on your own. What's the one most important thing, Beatrice?
Letting people out and not keeping them in camps. Camps are a waste of taxpayers' money. You're paying people who are not a threat to society.
Carol?
The war on drugs is definitely a profit-making thing for police and politicians all over the place, and it's completely senseless and useless. It's a public health problem that needs to be dealt with and recreational drugs use I think, should be allowed. This is America.
Tell that to the people in Ohio. Andrea, finally.
Stop sending mothers to prison.
On that note, pleasure. Beatrice, thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Carol, good to meet you.
Thank you.
Andrea, you too.
Thank you
so
for the
much.
invitation.